And we're going to jump into probably one of the more interesting parts of the system, and one of the parts what we get asked about a lot, which is auto attendance. So what you can see on the screen now is, again, to the same place. You go up the Teams admin center, voice settings on the left hand side, jump straight into, you've got an option for auto attendance, and you'd come in here and we'll just go through sort of the configuration of an auto attendant. And the first option you've got, once you start creating one, it's going to ask you, do you want to use an operator, do you want a receptionist to answer this or not? But typically with an auto attendant, you don't really need that, only if you want to have opening hours. But what we're going to do here is we're going to leave that. We're going to go down to sort of showing out where you can distribute calls to different options, that sort of thing. So as you can see there, you can put them to a person or an organization. You've got the time zone option, which is what that basically does is it basically says what time zone are we going to be using for our sort of schedule, because you'll see shortly where we can set the opening times for this auto attendant. When is it on hours, when is it during hours, and when is it out of hours, because then we've got different options of how we route calls dependent on that. So that's where you set the time zone for that. So obviously particularly useful if you're in a global organization with auto attendants that are distributed around the world. And there's an option there you can see, which is to enable voice inputs. And what that'll basically do is that'll basically allow, rather than when sort of you presented with options, it might be option 1 for sales, option 2 for customer services, rather than somebody pressing that option on their keypad on the dial pad, they can actually just say the option as you've defined it in the auto attendant, and then they'll be put through to that relevant queue. So the next page, let's scroll at the top of it. We've got the call flow. So this is the call flow settings during hours. So that's the first thing you encounter in these settings. So you can see here we've got the typical sort of features in. We can play a greeting message. We can actually upload our own audio file, which is not necessarily a new feature to PBXs, but it's good to know this can do it. But also it is much easier to do in Teams than some of the other phone systems, the MyTel systems, that sort of thing. It can be quite sort of technical to actually upload these audio files, but in Teams it's very much self-service. It's very easy to do that. So you can upload your own audio file, but you can also actually type in a greeting as well, and the Microsoft platform will just provide that voice automatically, and we'll speak the words that you enter as a greeting message, and it's surprisingly accurate, and it used to be probably a year or two ago a lot more robotic, but now it sounds very natural, the voice. So once we've actually decided if we want to have a greeting message, we then need to decide what we want to do with the calls. So we can either redirect the call straight away to a queue, or we can actually play our options, and we can basically, you can see there, we can go down and you can see here we can type in our options there, we can put another audio file in, and also we can actually, if you see where it says set menu option, this is where we basically would define the number of options that we want in that auto attendant, and crucially, when someone presses that or says that option, which obviously we can type in the voice command there, where the calls are going to go. And you can see here, for example, we've put in redirect to a voice app, and a voice app is basically a call queue or an auto attendant, and so you can actually redirect to another auto attendant. But yeah, that's where you basically you'd send the calls to the relevant call queues, or you can send them to individuals as well. So the next page, this is where you set your business. You set the business hours again, something you'd expect to be able to do in this sort of system. But just want to show you where you can do that and how you do it. So very simple, very intuitive interface. You go in here to basically define the times that your business is open, and then anything outside of that is assumed to be closed, which is where the after hours call flow comes in. And the after hours call flow is just, the options are just pretty much the same as what you get in the in-hours call flow. So you can, it's still very malleable, the system there. You can add a different message, different audio file, and you can redirect the call either to an individual's mobile if it's like an on-call sort of scenario, which obviously we have internally. but also you can actually play more menu options. If you have got multiple options out of hours for people to go through that are different to in hours, you can set those, but they're exactly the same as the in hours options. You can see there the options of what we can actually send a call to, where can we send a call. Same again as before, we can define dialing keys and the actual options there for the auto attendant. And now it's going to go into the dial and scope options. Actually, sorry, yeah, it is we've actually got the holiday settings as well. So obviously, if you know what the holidays are for your business for the full year ahead, you can go in here, define them, and define how you want the phone system to behave. Similar thing again, you just define the dates of when you want to behave differently, and then you tell it how you want to read out the calls, what messages you want to play, because obviously you might have a different message for different holidays throughout the year. So you can define all of those in this section here. And then the dial and scope. So this is a really useful feature. So basically what this is it allows the auto attendant to give the caller the ability to basically look up individuals in your directory and get transferred directly to them to either take away the requirement for a receptionist or to reduce the workload on somebody who's actually distributing those calls. So although there's those benefits to doing that, the downside is that everyone in the organization can become available basically just by saying the name, and you can get through to them, which isn't always something that we want. So this section here allows you to actually scope who you want to be able to be looked up or found in the directory by a voice search when someone calls up and be transferred to, or you can actually just set it to say which group of people we want to be excluded from that feature set. But again, one of the big benefits of this is you can actually specify it by a user group, and the benefit of that is by specifying a user group, it means that add moves and changes don't necessarily need to be done in the Teams admin center. So if you've got a first line team who've got the ability to modify group memberships in Office 365, all they would do if someone needs to be added or excluded for that, included or excluded that feature, is just go in to Office 365, go to the group section, add the users to the groups basically, and then that feature's enabled. So it becomes very low maintenance and also very quick to maintain and to respond to your business's changing requirements. And then this is where the resource account's attached to the auto attendant. So you've set your auto attendant up, you've configured all of your options, but it's not much use without actually having a number to be able to actually get to the auto attendant. So this is where you would link a resource account, which is ultimately a number, and the number that you want. So it could be a geo or non-geo number, and that would be attached to the auto attendant. And when you call it, you get the options that you've configured. And that's pretty much everything on the auto attendant. It's a quick run through of the settings there, but I'm sure you've got questions, so please drop them in the chat and we'll get back to you on them.